My name is Jeff King, and I'm here to talk about how the Penn State Hershey IBD Center saved my life. My life right now is pretty amazing. I have my own business. I can spend a lot of time with my son. I'm in a professional band, very involved in a number of different projects. And my friends tell me that I've never looked as good as I look now. But it wasn't always that way. A year ago, I was dying. I suffered from a severe case of ulcerative colitis. And in my case, the entire colon was involved. And it progressed very rapidly. At first, it was pretty easy to manage my life around this because I'm self-employed. I run my own schedule. I could sort of hide what was happening, except when I was playing shows with my band. I started becoming very uncomfortable with being away for an entire day at a venue where bathrooms weren't available a lot, or if there was a bathroom there, it wasn't very sanitary or didn't have everything in there that you needed. And it became worrisome at that point, even at that early stage, to be away from a bathroom for a long period of time. At that point, it was a couple hours. By the time the disease had run its course, I needed to be next to one, every 5 minutes. Later on, I started to develop a lot of fatigue, headaches, a whole constellation of symptoms. And that's when I started to do a lot of research into what was going on. And I started to keep a food journal. I started keeping track of not only what I ate, I kept track of all the bathroom stuff that was happening. I also kept track of how I felt on an hour-by-hour basis. It's just crazy that this was my life. I have an afternoon here, 3:55 in the afternoon, 4:20, 4:50, 5:45, 6:15, 7:45, 8:30. This is why you really can't go places, because you never know when it's going to strike and if there's going to be a bathroom nearby. By this time, I'm wearing Depends for shows with my band. I'm on stage. I'm starving myself for at least a day before any shows, any meetings with clients, anything that I had to be at. I would literally not be able to eat for a day in advance, at least, just in order to make it through without some kind of embarrassment. So I developed strategies for having accidents in the car, strategies for having accidents at various places in my apartment. I was sleeping right outside the bathroom door, and it still wasn't close enough to get there in time. My world shrunk down to a very tiny geographical area. From my apartment to my studio to the grocery store, back to the apartment. As a result of that shrinking down of my life, I missed out on anything that required travel more than 5 or 10 minutes. So I missed out on family funerals, including my grandfather. I missed out on tons of social events with my friends. When you add up all the time that's involved, it's not just the fatigue, it's not just the going to the bathroom, it affects your entire life. It takes a lot of time, it takes a tremendous amount of energy, and it also affects the people that you are living with, to a very large degree. I'm a single dad, had a kid at home. In addition to running my own business, I was taking care of my son, and he was experiencing all of the same stuff that I was going through. And it became very apparent that I had to start preparing him to take care of himself a little bit more. Because as the fatigue started to build up, I started needing to take naps every day. I couldn't go places on the weekend with him like we used to. And eventually I actually had to move his bowls and plates and glasses down to a level where he could reach them so that he could actually get his own food and start to take care of himself while I was sleeping. And it was heartbreaking to have to do that, but I literally could not take care of him to the same level that I could. I experienced times where I believe that I felt the last bit of energy that I had dissipate, and I couldn't walk 20 feet to the bed. I had to lay down on the floor right where I was because I was that tired. And obviously, when you're trying to take care of a child when this is going on, you have to alter certain behaviors and habits. So teaching him how to take care of himself was one of those things. Also preparing him and giving him a framework of how to deal with what he was seeing happen to me. That was very important for me, to teach him what to expect. And it wasn't that it's okay that this is happening to me, but I wanted him to know that because of the disease that I have, what he's seeing is normal for someone who has this disease. And so he actually started developing his own coping strategies. I asked him if it bothered him that I was in the bathroom all the time, or if I was being sick in the sink, or all these different things that he was seeing, that he was exposed to. And at first he said, no, it's fine. I would hear him playing in the background, he'd be singing songs. It seemed like it wasn't affecting him at all. Eventually, the place got very quiet when I was in the bathroom. As the disease progressed, as it became more serious, eventually he found a spot behind a chair in the corner that he called his backyard. And he took some toys back there, and every time I went into the bathroom, he would go into his backyard, and he would stay there until I came out. And the toys that he had there were only in the backyard. They never came out of the backyard, and he only played with them back there when I was in the bathroom. And he would go in when I went in, and he would not come out until I came out. And sometimes I would come out of the bathroom and immediately have to turn around and go right back in. And he would go right back into his backyard and stay there. As the disease is progressing and it's having a greater effect on me, and I'm losing weight, I'm sleeping hours every day. Even a 5-year-old, even a 6-year-old understands that something's going on that's beyond their control to do anything about, and they don't like it. And my son, it's heartbreaking when your 6-year-old comes to you and says, "Daddy, I wish you didn't have to throw up all the time. I wish you didn't have to go to the bathroom all the time." And you just have to try to help them through it, just as you're trying to help yourself through it. There's a whole ladder of medications that you go on to try to deal with the problems. And I was going up the ladder and my body was not responding. I was very sure that I needed to start looking into surgery. After getting a second opinion from Hopkins, my doctors at RGAL told me, just in passing, oh, well, if we were going to have this exact surgery, Penn State is where we would go. And so after having a number of people tell me that, I really, began to seriously consider the IBD Center here at Penn State Hershey. My first visit to the Penn State Hershey IBD Center was a very good experience. I had done a lot of research before coming here about Dr. Colton, who I was going to meet with. Dr. Colton came highly recommended from tons of other health professionals. And I was also able to meet with Dr. Williams on the same day. And because I was somewhat informed about the progression of ulcerative colitis and what we would be talking about, we had a really amazing, productive conversation. And people had warned me before I got here, that Dr. Colton is a very, no-nonsense kind of guy. He'll tell it to you like it is, which is exactly what I wanted. That was the guy that I wanted to meet with. And so we had a very frank discussion about the progression of my disease up to this point and what my options were as far as surgery or trials, or there weren't very many options at this point. And I was very interested in surgery. I wanted it done. I wanted it over with. And I was actually at a point where I was very excited about the possibility of surgery. One thing I remember from my first visit here was when I met with Dr. Williams, and she asked me a lot of questions about what I had been experiencing and took a lot of time to go over my medical history. And it was obvious at that point that I was in a lot of pain. I had a great deal of suffering. And I remember at one point during the visit with her, she looked straight at me and she said, "Jeff, you are going to feel so much better when this is over." And at that point, I wasn't even thinking about feeling better. I just wanted the pain to stop. And to have her say that to me, it was like my brain took a snapshot of that moment and replayed it often in the next month or so as I was waiting for my surgery. And it made a huge impact because I knew based on her expertise that she knew I was going to have a good outcome. And so even when it was almost impossible for me to imagine that, I knew that, okay, things are going to get better. Even though I was still suffering tremendously, I had an endpoint. I had a goal, and I knew that, okay, something is going to happen. And that kept me going. After I had made the decision to have the colectomy, it was very interesting to watch the reactions of people. People close to me, friends, family, clients, when I told them what was going to happen. They could not believe that I was eager and happy about this. Surgery for me was not about giving up, it was about taking control. It was totally about empowerment and taking back my life from the disease. As I was suffering with ulcerative colitis, I read a lot of material. And there's a certain, number of authors in the cancer world and in some other areas of disease who talk about, living with your disease and welcoming it and being friends with your disease. And I tried that for a very short time until I realized, my disease is not interested in being friends with me. It's not interested in working with me. It's interested in destroying me. And so, it needs to come out. We have modern medicine for a reason, It's here to help us. It's here to give us our lives back. And ulcerative colitis is a disease that can be completely eliminated in a couple hours in the OR. It's amazing. Why wouldn't you do that? If you're a candidate, if you're a good candidate for it, why wouldn't you? Having my surgery was literally like a getting out of jail ticket. It's hard to imagine unless you've gone through this, but the suffering, the daily suffering, and having that suffering end instantly. When I woke up from surgery, it was gone. And from that point on, everything that had been taken away gradually started to come back in to my life. I have never been as happy as I was the day of my surgery and that the weeks after.
It's pretty amazing. Going from 15 the day before to 1 to go through that kind of experience and then have the surgery and it just stops.
It took me a while to realize that I could do things outside of the house again. I had so trained myself to, plot my travels according to where the bathrooms were, that it just became a part of who I was. And it actually took some unlearning of that behavior to realize, hey, if I want to go for a walk, I can go for a walk. If I want to drive to the store, I can go there. I don't have to bring a backpack full of supplies. It was amazing, one by one. Writing music again, playing music with other people, visiting my clients, getting those relationships back on track, meeting with friends again, meeting with family. One by one, all of the colors became present again. I was able to go to my son's soccer games, go to his practices, and just a couple months after the surgery, we were outside kicking the soccer ball around, and he looked at me and he said, "Dad, remember when you had to lay in bed all the time?" And I said, "Yeah." "And remember when you had to walk around really slowly everywhere?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, now you're walking faster and you're running and we're playing soccer." And, what can you say to that? It's amazing the changes that can happen in 1 year. Going from completely malnourished, dehydrated, in lots of pain, life constricted down to a tiny, tiny space, geographically, mentally, socially, to today, where I've gained all my weight back, I'm off all the drugs, I can eat whatever I want to eat. I have absolutely no complications with the procedures that I had here, and I'm actually able to get on with my life. I'm actually able to build my life back even better than what it was because of what I went through. And so I'm extremely grateful to the IBD Center here at Penn State for helping me through this process.